Yo, hope everybody's doing good today. Thanks for checking out the video. This should be a rapid fire way of catching everybody up for the MTG Foundations set. It looks really good so far. I'm really excited about it. I know I'm a little worried too of how long the cards are going to be legal and standard. By the way, this should be aimed at, pretty much everybody. Mostly I'm going to be analyzing these cards through the lens of standard, but I'll also keep in mind Commander and other formats as I break them down. I'll even point that out very specifically so that everyone can get something from the video. And I'll try to be quick again. There is a few more cards to be revealed, but they are, to my knowledge, they should just be commons and uncommons. We pretty much got the main squeeze out of the set already, so the list should stay intact. I have, I believe, 21 cards, so one extra bonus one. Now, in no particular order, I'm just going to try to go quick and just sort of give you some insight and my general opinions, so I hope you find that interesting and maybe a little educational. Who knows? Alright, guys. My first card here, I actually like that I'm starting with it because this is one of my more favorite cards from the whole set. I love this as a build-around. So first of all, for 3 mana, you get an Elemental Hydra, which are cool creature types, honestly. It has Trample. It enters with a counter. Now, the cool thing is that it has a landfall trigger, so I love that. And whenever you get a land, you'll double the counters on the creature. Basically, you can get this up because it's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Once you hit like the 32 mark, which shouldn't be so hard, you will be swinging for buku banana damages. If you give it double strike, you're in business. We actually have a good amount of double strike and stuff being introduced. So I think that this isn't so hard to imagine. There is the Innkeeper Talents angle, so that could sort of double your doubling, which would be really cool. But mostly, right, you're going to play this in like your Aftermath Analyst decks or your Lumra decks that can bring a whole bunch of lands to the battlefield all at once. There's many other ways to do so, especially in other formats, but this could be pretty cool. I'll definitely, keep my eye on this, and I think that everybody should. So, Sphinx of the Forgotten Lore, very great card here. I don't think it is Snapcaster Mage by any means, but it is a flyer, 3/3, which is decent. It has Flash. So the idea, right, is like they're going to tap out, they're not going to expect this, you flash it in, then you can immediately start taking advantage of its ability, right? And when you build your deck in the right way, you should be able to protect this guy relatively easily and sort of keep the chain going. Because every target instant or sorcery will gain flashback till end of turn. So on an attack trigger. So very good card. I think that this is a little bit overlooked right now. I would definitely keep your eye on this as well. Honestly, I think it has a lot of work to do in Standard myself, but I don't think it's going to take over the format by any means, but something to keep your eye on, folks. Next up, Twinflame Tyant. Holy guacamole. This is the alt art. So the cool thing about this is if it says if a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or permanent, you deal double damage. So that includes combat damage. That includes obvious non-creature spells, non-combat damage, right? Which is kind of rare to have both, especially on, I'd say, like a decent rate, like a 5 mana, 3/5 dragon. Now, it's essentially a 6/5 dragon. So there is a lot to do. There's a lot of work to be done with this card, I would imagine. In the right shell, this could be backbreaking. 5 mana is a little expensive, so something to keep in mind. But, I don't think that 5 mana is like unplayable by any means. Again, like it's representing 6 damage in the air, and if you even, shock them, right? They're taking 4. There's also a lot of other doubling damage cards, so I imagine you can go and do insane things. I know those are sort of like, I don't think the right term is replacement effects, but there might be some weird interactions to work through. I'm maybe not the most knowledgeable on that specific interaction, but I think this can do something to consider. So Scavenging Ooze is next, and again, this is in no particular order. People always underestimate this card, or maybe they used to, but first of all, there's a lot of graveyard synergy in the format, so having a 1 mana way of stopping all of that, from Rite of the Moth to your Roiling Coils to pretty much anything your Baelmerk, right? You can stop them from getting a card out of their graveyard with Baelmerk. So this is pretty darn good, and honestly, it has a life gain trigger, and you will see in the set, there's a lot of life gain stuff going on. In fact, I have at least one more card that is two more cards that are very synergistic with that. So keep your eye on Scoos. Doubling Seasons being introduced in the deck. This is obviously not the art from the set, but it's probably the best art, right? So if you've, like, for some reason never seen this before, you get double tokens when you make a token. You get double permanents when you put, or sorry, you get double counters on your permanents when you put counters on your permanent. So very wide range of value there, and obviously everyone knows how good this card is. For 5 mana, I think it's very playable. I would not sleep on it. I think that this will do a lot of work with the cards that we already have available, and as more sets come out, this is a card you gotta keep in mind, right? Okay. Now this card, I don't think is so good. This is one of the worst cards on the list, I would say, but I just love these kind of effects. And you got to imagine that you're playing this in a control type of vibe, right? You're playing this in the control list. So, you know, even though it's 6 mana, I think that this can do something, especially when you have like good enchantments and good sagas and things to copy. Honestly, and if you have 2 copies of this, they can target each other, then you'll have 4 copies. Then, if you could somehow, you know, if you can maintain until then, you know, you're starting to do some hilarious things. So, I don't know. I just think it's more fun than it is good. And I know people have seen this card before, but it is coming and being printed in the set. So something to keep in mind. Yeah. Llanowar Elves. I had to put it on the list somewhere. You know what this does? I think it will really expedite a lot of decks in the format. I just don't think Llanowar Elves is ever going to get bad. Like, it's never going to be a bad card, and it's certainly good in this environment, just expediting things even more. Yeah, dude. So, Progenitus. This card, I think, has a lot of work to do. Again, we have a lot of good reanimation spells, so we're not going to try to, obviously, hardcast this. I mean, you could, but you'd be weird. No, but protection from everything is super serious, because it can't really be blocked. So, it's almost, like, unblockable. It can't be removed very easily. It's just, like, dude, this is going to be in standard for a long time. So this is, you know, there's going to be a lot of synergistic cards being printed around this, and this is just something you have to permanently take into consideration. Now, this is awesome art. I just got to tell you, that is some sick art. Dude. All right, now this card, I could not find a good quality. This isn't even a good quality image, but I'll tell you the English translation. It has flying. It's a 4/4. So when you gain life, you put a counter on this creature. So it starts as a 3/3. As long as you gain life once, it's a 4/4. That's pretty good. Also, whenever you put a counter on him, it only triggers once each turn. You draw a card. So once a turn, you can draw a card as long as you gain 1 life, because when you gain 1 life, you'll put a counter. So hopefully I did that justice, right? It has sort of 2 things going on. Basically, as you gain life, it'll become bigger and bigger and bigger. All of a sudden, very easily, this guy can become like a 7/7, 8/8 flyer. That's pretty good. Along the way, it's going to be drawing you cards. I think a lot of people will write this off, but I think there's something to this being that it's a flyer. It's like an Ajani's Pride Mate that costs more, that flies, starts as a bigger body, and has the upside of drawing you cards. So I think it has a deck it can do something in, but I don't think it's going to be amazing or anything. There's probably other options. So this is the creature with the 7 keywords. So just like with Progenitus, you are obviously, not maybe obviously, but you're probably going to try to reanimate this. It has a really crazy ward, right? They have to pay 7 to get rid of it. And if you're playing any sort of lifelink or anything, it's going to gain you 7, which is a huge trigger for especially one of the later cards on the list, so keep your eye out for that. But first of all, First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample. Those are insane together because they can't really block you, they can't really swing into you. The Trample and the Menace is pretty big, especially if you're playing removal. You can easily, you know, kill 2 other creatures and they're just trying to lose 1, and it's just very good. All of these work very well together. There's nothing more to be said. You just put a bunch of keywords on this. Very good. 7/7 isn't too shabby. Now, this card probably might not be amazing, but I think it has, like the ceiling on it is very high, right? For 3 mana, you could draw potentially like 5 cards relatively easily, right? Because you'll have like tokens that are like 0 mana cost. So there's one, right? You can play a 1-drop that generates a token, to my knowledge, right? A 0. So there's already 2. You lay a 2-drop, you lay a 3-drop. So this could be a 3 mana draw 4. Relatively easy earlier on in the game as well. It's not like impossible to do that. And honestly, like, there could be board states where you draw 6 off of this, right? So I just think that for 3 mana, it's a static rate. It could be bad. It has to be in the right shell. But I think it's good. I think you should keep your eye on Lunar Insight. Alesha, who laughs at friggin' fate, brother. So this card, yeah, dude, I don't know. I just like that it has first strike. I like that on the attack trigger you get the counter. So, like, your first attempt to swing with this, it'll be a 3/3 first strike, which is not so hard to get in. You're also playing this in Rakdos Plus, so you should be able to remove stuff that's problematic or larger than your creature. Now, the other thing too, right? At your end step, if this creature survives combat, basically, and you attack with it, you can bring a creature card back from your graveyard, put it onto the battlefield, which is really, really powerful. You know, think about, like, Deep Cavern Bats. Think about, God, there's probably so many. Anyway, you can imagine them. My brain is spaghetti, I guess, right now. But just general value over and over and over again is really, really good, especially in these colors where you can allow it to keep getting bigger. And potentially, right, this becomes like a 5/5 or 6/6. You know, if it's a if it's 5/5, you can bring back a friggin' Sheoldred, right? Obviously. So, yeah. Oh, or a 4/4. It could be equal to its power. So you only have to swing twice with this to bring back a Sheoldred. So I think that this has something to do in Standard. I really do. I think that people wrote this off somewhat immediately, but I think it's good. I don't know. It's a cool card to look at. Koma. Okay, sorry I laughed like an idiot. But dude, okay, first of all, Koma is always the most ridiculous card. The last one was freaking ridiculous. Obviously in Commander, that Koma took over. I think that this Koma is less good in Commander, but if it deals combat damage, it has Trample, it has a butt to survive a 12 butt, right? You can create 4/3/3 creature tokens named Koma's Coil. So that's a lot, right? Like, if you do connect with this, that's hard to get through unless they're board wiping. Obviously, they're going to try to board wipe Koma anyway because it has Warp 4. So that's sort of the only way to get around it. So I think this card's very annoying. I think that this will be a obvious reanimation target and just Simic ramp. Obviously, good card. I think most people will play Vaultborn Tyrant, among other things, 7 out of 10 times, I'd say, as I heard my favorite content creator say too, and I think that's spot on. Like, 7 out of 10 times in most decks, you're probably going to just play Vaultborn Tyrant, but I think that this, in the right shell, can be so oppressive, and I don't think that the 12 toughness should be slept on, especially with that Ward 4. So, this card, okay, I know this is a bad card. Don't click on the video. But, like, dude, first of all, is it really? Okay, like, dude, so the thing is, I just think that we have a lot of those smaller ping creatures that do, like, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. So you should be able, like, say they're at, like, 12 life. You should be able to, like, manage, you could just shock them and then cast this, right? If you have, like, 5 mana. But we have a lot of ways of, like, getting it close to 10. You should be able to facilitate that in a way. And if this doesn't get countered, it's just like you win, right? Unless they have, like, a life gain trigger, they can sort of trigger automatically in response. But I think, yeah, this is just an I win button for 4 mana at instant speed. I don't know, dude. I don't think it's bad. I won't hate you if you think it is. It probably is. But I'm a believer, man. Alright. This actual card is called, what the hell is this? It's like something Awaken the Breeze. So it's Kykar Awaken the Breeze, I believe. I don't know why the thing is wrong here, but all the art for this was screwed up. But whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can exile target creature you control, return to the battlefield at the beginning of the owner's next end step. That's really good. First of all, in, like, Commander, this will probably be better than Standard. And also, in Standard, you're probably going to choose the 1/1 flyer half, which is really good. I think that is way more applicable because, you know, you're playing this in a tempo deck, you're using blue to sort of buy you time, you're growing your board, this is already a 3/4 flyer. If they don't have flyers to deal with that, it does represent a lot of damage. I think that 4 mana is pretty good for this. And honestly, yeah, if you have the right deck, you can imagine just, like, I mean, you wouldn't be playing this card, but, like, things like Phyrexian Fleshgorger, exile it, comes back as a 7/5. But obviously you're going to play this with just, like, really good value ETBs, and as more sets come in, we can keep our eye on those ETBs, and there should be a critical mass of ETB creatures to keep in mind. But again, the thing about this card is you need to have a right balance of creatures and non-creature spells to actually get this going, so you have to strike it right down the middle. So sometimes those cards can be bad, so I wouldn't say this is like overwhelming, but it's a cool card. It's a cool card. Swift Boots. Wait, hang on. How do I do this? Oh yeah, plus. All right. Swiftfoot Boots is a good card. I think everyone knows that. I think that this is going to be super good in today's meta because haste is serious. There's a lot of huge, crazy creatures, and for 1 mana, as long as you have 1 extra mana, you can get value out of that creature right away. There's also a lot of combat damage stuff, so they won't see that coming with Swiftfoot Boots. Now, I don't think that this is, like, oppressive, but I think that, like, also just hexproof, right? Like, it's just so good against certain decks. It's not that great against other ones, but the decks it's good against, it's good against. So at the very least, it should be a sideboard piece, I would imagine. I just think it's something to remember that exists. So there it is. Now this card I was excited to talk about. If you remember Enduring Tenacity, the black Tenacity creature from Duskmourn, right, whenever you gain life, the opponent loses that much life. So with this guy and Enduring Tenacity, you already have infinite. You already win. You have the infinite ping combo wombo. Combo wombo? You know what I'm saying, bro. Also, it's a 5 mana flying Death Touch. That's not so bad. Like, it's not unplayable by any means. You'd probably play Aklizotes in most cases and stuff. But, dude, like, the fact that it can go infinite relatively easy is like, yeah, and they curve one into each other, Enduring Tenacity and this card. So that is going to be a reality for a long time. So this is definitely a card that you'll see. A lot of people are going to try to do that. It's pretty dang ridiculous. But yeah, also it's just cool. Like, look at the art. It's very simple, but it's very cool. Like that shield, the detail on his armor. This is good quality stuff. I like the card. Okay. I don't think this card's going to be that good. I don't think it's going to be like, you know, it's not going to be friggin' like super meta crazy good. But I think in the right deck, obviously, in the Enduring Curiosity decks and the Malcolm, I really like Malcolm. I don't think people play Malcolm enough. There's also, people are playing, what is it, not Fairy Vandal, but the Flash 2/1 Fairy that draws cards when your opponent draws cards. You know the one. You know, this will fit right in with that card. And honestly, as long as you get like 2 good combat steps, like say you swing with 2 creatures 1 turn, you put 2 loyalty on it, you +1 that turn. So now he's at 6. The next turn, if you swing with 3 creatures, if you can, then he's at 9 already. And even if you just swing with 2, he can +1 again that turn, and then he'd be at 9 regardless, but he'd have to ultimate next turn. And if you can get off the ultimate, that's a crazy ultimate. That really is, especially on a 3-drop Planeswalker. I know you don't really analyze Planeswalkers because of their ultimates, but dude, I don't know. And I just think that it can, you know, it can create bodies with 2 power, which is decent. Can sort of block itself relatively okay. I just think it's a cool card. I don't think it's as good, but in the right tempo-y deck with like more creatures probably than non-creatures, you could get this guy up pretty big, and you also have those creatures to sort of protect him. So you will be getting card filtering every turn with the +1. It also makes certain things unblockable, which can be really good. So I just think it's a fun card more than it's probably good. Now, this card, I saw people, like, not liking this card. But, dude, I don't know, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know. People wrote off a Luminous Broodmoth for some reason. It was 4 mana, did a very similar thing, just without the counter. Commander. This card, like, dude, yeah, like, we're cooking with this. I don't know why people think it's that bad. Because it's just like, yeah, you fill up your board, you play pretty much just this and, like, a bunch of creatures. It's like, yeah, they die, and then they're flyers. They're even harder to deal with, and they're bigger. Like, they only have 20, in Standard, they only have 20 life to work with. So just like, yeah, dude, like, when are they going to double remove this stuff? Yeah, like, I don't know. I just think, return the card to the battle under control. If it has fine. So if they die again, you just bring it back again. It doesn't say finality counter. It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't have a finality counter. Oh, but it is an angel. Sorry, so a non-angel creature. So that's the catch. Okay, I get it, but it's still good. It's still something to easy, like it's easy to build around this, and I think the ceiling of this card is very high. So I don't think you should write it off. Now the last card on the list. Thank you, by the way, for making it all the way here. Is Chandra. Again, this was in no particular order, but this card, I mean, like, dude, add 3 mana. exile the top 3 cards. You can play that turn for +2. Starts at 6. I mean, yeah, dude. Like, even if you don't have creatures to block it, which, like, you should at that point in the game, probably, it has a large body, so it's, like, hard to just swing into it and kill it. But, yeah, +3 mana is not to be sneezed at. Exile the top 3, dude, that's a serious plus. I think people aren't talking about the plus that much. Also, just create a copy of target creature you control. It has haste. There's a lot of combo stuff you can do with that. Even though you have to sacrifice the token, there's a lot of huge, big, trample-y dudes. Make a token every turn with your Planeswalker. It's just like boom, 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 boom. They still have to deal with Chandra, but they really should deal with the creatures on the board. So it puts a lot of pressure in that way. 7 mana is a lot. I get that. And the -4 is just like, yeah, blow up anything super problematic. You can hopefully take out 2 or 3 things with this. It can hit Planeswalkers as well. So I think it's a very good card. It sort of self-facilitates itself. Or like the value it generates keeps it alive, keeps it hard to deal with. Even though it doesn't really create blockers, unless, you know, if you don't already have blockers. But it should be fun to build around this. I imagine that Big Red was waiting for a card like this. Yeah. So, and I can see this in Gruul very easily cast large, big green guys, even though it is 3 red mana. So, yeah, that is the top 21 cards. I probably missed a couple. I think I might have even accidentally deleted some when I was creating these tabs on the top of my computer. But, yeah, I've been having deck techs come out left and right, so if you're new, check those out. And I should be having one come out either today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And I really do appreciate all the support recently, you guys. A lot of you have been super cool, commenting, recent subscribers, way more traction than usual, so I appreciate it. So I have high hopes for this deck, this set. I think they did a great job of splitting or sort of balancing the power, so that it's like, yeah, they're good cards, they're going to make a splash, but they're not going to be like oppressive, because it is going to be a long time that these cards are legal. And some of these in Commander, you know, are going to be good. Like, a lot of these cards, some are reprints. Some of these cards are like powerhouses in Commander. So, yeah. So I just think that they did a good job. So that's about it. I really appreciate it again, and I will see you in the next video. Stay solid, my dudes and dudettes. I love you. I don't care what they say about you. All right. Deuces, bro.